Welcome to the Live from South College podcast. I'm your host, Kathleen Stockham. The Live from South College podcast is your source for all South College activity, including new student information, deep dives into our 100-plus programs and concentrations, tools of the trade, and even live on location from all of our campuses. Great interviews with faculty, staff, deans, and hear from South College students and alumni in their own words. From certificates all the way to doctoral degrees, catch up with Live from South College for the lighter side of helping your dreams find direction. If you've ever found yourself, flat on your back, staring into the bright lights as the masked, gowned, and surgical team is swirling around you and telling you reassuring things just before you go to sleep, chances are there are surgical technologists in the room. These key players in the surgical environment provide the critical support for the surgeon and for the anesthesia team. Here to tell us more about these MVPs in the surgical environment is the Senior Department Chair of one of our most popular programs for surgical technology, South College's own Chris Blevins. Hi, Chris.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is so fun.
Yeah, so I'm excited you're here. I've been looking forward to this. Okay, so the first question to start us off is, explain to our audience what surgical technology is.
I would love to. I think that it is not a very well-known profession, simply because our clientele are drugged. So we don't get to typically see our patients prior to them coming into the operating room. And so it's a career field within the allied health world. And, most people assume we're either A, surgeon, or B, a nurse, and we're neither. But the reason that they don't understand who we are in the operating room, and we're a necessary part of the sterile team that is operating on the patient. We're actually required to be in the OR as a part of the team in order for a surgery to even happen. But you're drugged. You're given medication in pre-op, and prior to that, you're visited by your nurse, you're visited by your anesthesia, because you have to sign certain consent forms in order for us to do what we need to do to you in the OR. But once you've been given that medication, you don't remember anything that comes after it. And you may have, glimpses of things that have happened, kind of like snapshots, if you will, that go off. But you don't typically remember us, because by the time you get to us in the operating room, first of all, we look like ninjas, right? We're masked. We have this scrub caps on. We're completely gowned and gloved. All you see are our eyes. But once you've been put to sleep by the anesthesia team, that's when our job begins. And the reason we didn't visit you prior to you coming into the operating room is because our job is to prepare the OR for the procedure that's going to occur. So all the instrumentation, all of the supplies, everything that has to be perfectly sterile and ready for the surgeon in order to be able to perform the operation, we need to make sure that that's ready to go. So we are in the OR getting ready. Once you're put on the operating room table, that's when our job begins. So you're prepped, you're draped, we assist with the incision, we're passing instrumentation, we are retracting your anatomy. But once the procedure is over and we've helped apply your bandages, we help transition you to your stretcher, but we do not go with you to recovery. Anesthesia does, and your nurse does. They give report to the next nursing team that's going to take care of you. But once again, we don't go because we're getting ready then for that surgeon's next surgery, and then rinse and repeat. So You're drugged when you come to me. You're unconscious when you leave me. So you have no idea that I was elbow deep in your anatomy for however long it took us to make sure that you were very well taken care of during that surgery.
I love that. You go to work dressed as a ninja. I am so on board with that. That is...
Yes, it is. We go to work in our PJs. We work in sterile gowns and gloves.
Now I know why it's a popular program. So
it's an amazing field.
The future is very bright for this particular healthcare path. Why do you think that is? Besides the ninja part.
Right. Well, it's if you have a little bit of an adrenaline junkie in you, It's amazing because, most people come to the operating room because they're having a very bad day, right? Um, and so we see fascinating anatomy. There are surgical procedures that we can do today that we weren't able to do even 5 or 10 years ago. There's pathology and disease processes that were considered inoperable that now are routine. We use amazing instrumentation. We actually use robots to operate on people on a daily basis. We also, so not only is there that kind of day-to-day difference in, so for example, when I was in clinical practice, I did hearts, I did cardiovascular surgery, but my main kind of bread and butter was liver transplants. One patient from another is never the same. If you have some OCD tendencies and you like processes and you like the perfection in the beauty of doing things the right way all the time, we must be perfect in the operating room. If I make a mistake, I could kill someone. If I contaminate something, that contamination can lead to a major infection that this already sick or injured person may not recover from. So there's a huge high level of integrity. It's just a very noble profession that's demanding and creative and exciting. And I could totally talk about it all day. But
no, that's amazing. And that makes a lot of sense. So a question regarding the students. How do you help students get over that initial fear and kind of gross out moment in their first observed surgery? Because you were talking about being, elbow deep in someone's anatomy. But, if they're feeling a little maybe sensitive watching incisions and instruments being used, how do you help initially your students kind of get past that?
Well, there's so many things that we do. Number one, we never shy away from it. We talk about it all the time. South College specifically, we are so lucky to have many, many tools and software and different things that we use. We have a wonderful company that we use called Incision that has simulation for procedures, and the photographs and videos and active learning tools really show true anatomy. We have another thing called the Journal of Medicine, is JOMI, that our students utilize. So they're constantly seeing real live surgeries. My team and I have years, I think probably almost 50 years combined experience in the operating room and war stories to tell. So we talk about those things. We show them what live anatomy looks like. And to be completely honest, if in an operating room, unless it's a true trauma, which as a trauma scrub, yes, there are moments where patients come in pretty bad shape. But in true surgery, we control bleeding as we go. We control the vasculature. We are in true preventative mode the entire way. So, what you see on Grey's Anatomy, what you see on TV isn't real life. If we're doing our job appropriately, there isn't as much bleeding. There isn't as much gore and that you would expect to see in the general public. So surgery it looks chaotic if you're not a part of the team, but what it is just this beautifully well organized, orchestrated dance, if you will. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful kind of just mass movement of a bunch of people who work in tandem with one focus, and that's that patient that's on the table.
Oh, that's awesome. So you talked a little bit earlier about the precision piece and the importance of, being very, like you were talking about, being potentially kind of OCD and worrying about detail. So let's talk about the count. The count is obviously the most important role for the surgical technologist. So first question, what is the count for our listeners? But the second question is, how many times does a student get to practice the count?
All day, every day, all the time. Yeah. So the count, and for those of you who are listening, souvenirs are bad in the operating room. Most of the time, if you are coming in, it's because something's not working and we need to take it out. Or you what we are putting in, for example, like if you have a fractured bone, we need to plate and screw it. Those plates and screws need to go in a certain spot. They need to stay there all day, forever and ever. Amen. But there are supplies, there's suture, there are sponges, there are needles, there are thousands of things that we use in order to be able to perform the operation. And the person whose sole responsibility to make sure that what we started with, we finish with, and what we put inside of you, we take out, is the certified surgical technologist in the room. So my students must be fully prepared to be able to take on that responsibility before they get into the operating room. So, counting, making sure that we are fully in control of how much medication goes in and out of a patient, what sharps we use, what sponges, all of those things. Not only is it your responsibility, but you're also legally responsible for that in the OR. So we practice that from day one. We practice it over and over again. Our program is very, very good because we have such a high standard and because we perfect those things prior to our students going into the hospital, because no one's mama deserves to be a guinea pig. My students will be perfect at that before they go into a hospital, and they appreciate it because it sets them up for success before they, take on that responsibility. So yeah, counting's important. There's a big joke in the OR, we only count in 5s and 10s because our sponges come in either a package of 10 or a package of 5. So it's like, hey, if you can count to 10 with 10 fingers, you're good. But obviously, for example, in a cardiovascular surgery, we, for a heart valve transplant or a heart valve, for example, we could use up to 85, 86 suture needles just for one surgery. For a C-section, we start a C-section with 25 sponges, and then we go from there. So you can see that, just even starting counts, by the time you're done with a 2, 3, 4, 14-hour surgery, those numbers can get pretty high. So making sure you're staying on top of it the entire time, extremely important.
Gosh. Well, I mean, that's another one of those things that as a patient, you don't really think about. You just sort of have that trust that what goes in is hopefully
must come out.
So slightly different topics. What is your cool story? And sure, you can totally gross us out because,
Absolutely.
That's part of the fun. And most importantly, give us a little sense of kind of something that you were like, ooh, yeah.
Not today. Yeah. So there's, oh my gosh. Being a trauma scrub, I saw a lot of people that were in really bad shape. I've had motor vehicle accidents with motorcycles are probably the worst. I will tell you, my favorite was what got me into surg tech in the first place. I was pre-med all the way. I never wanted to do anything other than medicine my entire life, other than be an astronaut for about 5 minutes. But I was hit by a drunk driver and I played Division I volleyball and lost that. And so life hits you, right? And literally, I was lost for a little bit. My uncle was an anesthesiologist, and he said, come be what we used to call an orderly back in the day. He says, come to this it's a little podunk hospital in the middle of Texas. He said, come just work on a patient, like, come help me, just get back into get into an operating, like, just come get into medicine. 'Cause I was super lost. And, so I go in there, and it was right when the very first, what we call a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgery was created. So that tells you how old I am. But so I'm just scrubbing floors and like turning over rooms and just trying to figure life out again. And there we had this little Greek surgeon, and we had patients that were morbidly obese, quite large. And they started to need people who could just help with retracting extra tissue. And I was just one of those people. I'd been there about 6 months, and I just kept saying yes, like, I'll help in any way possible. And knowing who my uncle was, and just I kept building trust. And this was before you had to be certified. by the way, which is scary. So they came to me, Paula, my OR charge nurse, and she came one day and she said, Chris, do you want to learn how to scrub in? And I didn't even know what that meant. I said, okay. And I said, sure, because I don't know how to say no, as y'all know at South College. And so I go and so she says, we need help in the operating room, and you're going to put gown and gloves on, and they're going to help you. And you're going to stand there and you're going to put your hands in this patient and do everything that Dr. Alexander says. And I don't want you to touch anything. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. So I stand next to this woman and she teaches me how to do a hand scrub, which is, if you've seen Grey's Anatomy, it's pretty much the only thing they do right. And so, they walk me through this little hand scrub. And so I'm walking around. They don't touch anything. Don't dry your hands. Because everything has to be perfectly done. So I do that. And then they walked me into this operating room and they dried my hands with a sterile towel. And then this woman puts a sterile gown and gloves on me. And I am standing there scared to death. I can feel my heart rate. And so then now that I'm sterilely gowned in gloves, you have to stand a certain position too. And so they put me in this spot in the room and they're like, don't move. And I'm telling you, Kathleen, I did not move. So I didn't move. And then here comes this patient and here comes this entire team. And I had never seen that before. And they get this patient on the table. And next thing I know, this patient's being intubated and they're prepping and there's drapes. And I mean, everything happened so quickly in the operating room because we work in tandem. So boom, 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 boom. Before I know it, this patient is now draped out in blue and I can't see anything but this one little space. And then this woman takes this huge table of instruments and this other table and the surgeon walks in and he's gowned and gloved and he's so scary to me. And so they make this incision and I hear all these noises. And then finally, Paula pats me on the back of my head and she's like, okay, move up, baby girl, move up. So here I am, like walking like a little zombie because I don't know what to do. And he goes, don't move. And I'm like, yes, sir. And I'm standing there. So he pushes it up. And so for all of you that don't, what he's done is I'm holding the top of the abdomen and I'm pushing up on the diaphragm. But of course, I don't know this. But I'm feeling this patient's heart. And I start crying. It's the middle of the OR and I'm bawling. If you cry and it drips onto the sterile field, you've contaminated.
Yeah.
That's a bad day. So I'm like standing there and he yells and he looks at me and he's like, are you crying? No, I can't move. I've got my hand pushing up and I'm like, and I'm crying. Yeah. And he's yelling at me. He's like, Paula, which is yelling at the OR nurse. And she comes running up there and she's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I'm holding her heart. And I'm not. But I can feel her. Now I know things, right? So now I'm like, you idiot. But no. But anyway, because I can feel this patient's heart. And it was just so beautiful. And I'm holding, and he's like, she's going to contaminate. And of course, there are curse words and things. And
of course.
So Paula she's like leaning my head back and she's wiping my eyes. She's like, you cannot cry. Like, stop it. Knock it off. Like, she's like, you can't cry. You're going to contaminate. Like, it's okay. Just don't move. Like, so I'm like, I get it together. And that's when I fell in love with surgery. And I was like, I don't know what just happened. And I don't know this lady that gowned and gloved me and that is helping this surgeon and passing all of this stuff. But what is she? And that's what I want to do. Like, that's who I want to be. And then, so when I finally got out of there and got my life, like I figured out, okay, I just survived this. And this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And holy crap. And then I said, what do you do? And she's like, I'm a surgical technologist, and looking at me like I'm stupid. And I was like, that's what I want to do.
Trial by fire.
Yeah.
Trial
so
by fire.
The best surgery I've ever been in my life, because it changed my world. And yes, I cried and got yelled at. And no, thank God I didn't contaminate and I didn't hurt anything.
That's incredible. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What a story. My
Is it not crazy? Yeah, scary. It never should have happened. Thank
Yeah.
God you have to be certified and actually go to school and be trained and all of those things now. But
Yeah.
22 years ago, none of that had to actually happen, which is
That,
super scary for
that's
those of you who had
incredible.
surgery. But
So,
yeah.
so one of the neatest things that I have seen in your lab, because I got a chance to actually have a little fun with it myself, is the
Yes.
simulated laparoscopic tools. You actually get to use the scope and it looks like the real thing. So tell me more about that tool and how the students get to use it.
Oh, man. So, I already mentioned we're so lucky and our students are so lucky. South College has given us everything we need to be able to prepare our students to be rock stars, and they really are. But most people don't know so many of our surgeries nowadays are done laparoscopically. What does that mean, right? It means that it's a minimally invasive approach to doing probably 75% of the surgeries that we do. So if somebody said I had a lap chole or I had a lap hernia repair, that means that we took out their gallbladder or we repaired a hernia using a camera and very small incisions with very long instruments in order to operate on the patient. And it's so great because it makes us more accurate. And also, when a patient has a very small incision, they tend to heal much faster, much easier, and they're less prone to infection, which is just such a better outcome for our patients. But when you think about what an example I give for our students is when you're eating dinner, you typically need both hands, right? You need a knife and a fork. Well, so do our surgeons. Our surgeons need both hands in order to operate. Well, if that's the case, then who is the person operating the camera? Who's the person that is the eyes of the surgeon during the procedure? Well, you see her. That's the surgical technologist. And I really need our students to know how to drive a camera and be able to do that prior to going to the hospital and doing clinicals. And that's what the LapSim simulator does for our students. So our students are proficient at navigating that camera, that hand-eye coordination, being able to do it either left-handed or right-handed, and not only navigating that camera, but sometimes we also have to do that and retract tissue with the other hand at the same time. So all of those things you're able to practice with that laparoscopic simulator. It's a part of their lab grade. They come in. It's so much fun. I'm sure you've seen our students. They'll put in their AirPods, put in some music, listen to a podcast. They can come in anytime. I give my students free reign to our lab. And you'll see them in there shaking their head, getting into it.
Yes, it's time to listen to a disco beat is when you're.
Yes, they really do. And on so many, especially our younger population, they're gamers. When I had to learn laparoscopic surgery, we didn't have all of these great tools, so we were clumsy. My Nintendo 64 back in the day did not prepare me for this. But our younger population, our students just thrive. They catch on really quickly.
That's amazing.
And they do such a great job. So we're very thankful for the LapSim at South College.
No, that's awesome because I've definitely seen it in action and it's so cool to watch.
It's so great.
Let's talk about the program a little bit. So the growth of surgical technology at all of our campuses has been honestly really amazing to watch from my perspective. What do you attribute that growth to?
Gosh, so many things. I think that there's a demand, like there is a national shortage of surgical technologists. So the job market is booming. All of our hospitals and our clinical partners, which we are so grateful for, need help. But they don't just need help, they need amazing help. They need really well-trained surgical technologists. And at South College, I think our reputation has grown. As we have grown, they've seen that the students come out, not only are they well prepared in sterile technique, they're well trained in surgical theory and in instrumentation and supplies and the skills that they need prior to going to the hospital, but also they're professional. They are career ready. They're ready to be a part of a team. And I think that comes from also the tools that we provide them to learn, the one-on-one support that we give them. Our lab is open. We have one-on-one appointments, which is just a 30-minute appointment that the student makes. It's you and your instructor, and it's student-led. And it's, how can we help you be better? What do you need help with? It's my team. I have incredible instructors, not just in Knoxville, but at every one of my campuses. I'm so blessed to have been able to hire a patient-focused and student passion. It's at their heart, and they're just really great, not only in the operating room, but also in the classroom. And I think when you have a team that rallies around your students and just cares, I think it shows, and it just, that's why it grows, and we love what we do. I mean, you hear us in the lab. We love our team, we love our profession, we love our students. We make learning fun.
The bond you have with your students is amazing.
It's so fun.
I see the photos, I see the social media posts. The bond is incredible, and that's always so great to see that it's not just come in, learn this program, graduate, and go off. I mean, it feels like there is an incredible bond, and I know a lot of that is attributed to you. So a question about you: what do you do in your spare time? Like, you have any, but what do you do in your spare time?
I love our field, and because nobody knows a lot about it, I want people to understand that this is an option, and it's a noble profession, and it just is such a cool way to open a door to even other pathways, right? My graduates have gone to PA school. Some have gone to nursing. Many of my graduates come back and work for me, which is really great. I give them a chance to leave me, but they come back, which is just, it warms my heart. But I run a podcast. I'm a co-host of a national podcast called First Case. We have it's a mobile app. It's on iTunes and Spotify, and you can just go to First.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, absolutely. But we talk. It's a perioperative podcast. So we talk all things medicine and surgery, and so I love that. I love to travel, whether it's for South College. We have 8 programs across the country, about to be 9. So I do a lot of traveling for our institution. I'm a mama. I have 4 incredible kids. I should say 2 grown adults, and 2 that are still here. I have doodles, and I speak on surgical technology across the country. So I love to read, and I'm still in school. So I just constantly learning and trying to keep this brain of mine forward thinking. And so, I don't stop a lot, but there are so many opportunities that I have right now, and I'm so grateful, and I just try to pay it forward as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, so. I mean, if you think about, your first exposure, I'm a firm believer that I think things are placed in your path for a reason. And so I think you are truly living proof of that. This has been amazing. And I must admit, I've actually learned a few things that I didn't necessarily know I needed. I feel like I need to institute a count of my own of phone wallet keys anytime I go someplace. I also now know that there is no crying in the surgical field.
No crying in the OR. Yes.
I am well versed. There is no crying in the surgical field. But truthfully, I think you've shed a lot of light and a lot of insight into a key healthcare role that, for the lack of a better explanation, is right in the middle of the action, literally in the middle of the action. And the growth of this program for us at South College has been phenomenal to watch. And I feel like you have a huge piece of that success. I want to thank you for being my guest. And this is, again, Senior Department Chair of Surgical Technology, Chris Blevins, for being on the podcast today. Thank you again.
No, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And anytime, come play in our lab. Anybody. we love for people to come visit and learn more about South and Surge Tech and our team and just the world of surgery, because we're here to take care of you all the time.
Yes, that's awesome. Well, coming up after the break, how do you feel about 2025? Are you already embracing the resolutions and the changes, or are you just not sure? We'll discuss that and more after the break. We'll be right back.
When you start your new career path at South College, you'll join students from different walks of life at varying stages in their lives. Many students are going back to school to finish degrees, while others are pursuing elevated education that will help them improve their potential in their current roles or for chasing a new direction. South College offers over 100 programs and concentrations with specialized focus on associate, bachelor's, master's, educational specialist, and doctoral degrees in healthcare, business, technology, education, and legal studies. We are regularly developing new academic programs based on local, regional, and national trends. Each curriculum is designed to promote development of knowledge and skills in the associated discipline as we challenge and support our students. South College is committed to providing intellectual, social, and professional development to a diverse student body. With locations in Knoxville, Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Asheville, North Carolina, Orlando, Florida, Indianapolis, Indiana, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Dallas, Texas, and Marietta, Georgia, as well as programs delivered through Competency-Based Education, or CBE, and online. We're here with you every step of the way, starting with the admissions process. To find out more, visit South College at south.edu. South College, where dreams find direction.
Welcome back. It's a new year, and if you're consuming a lot of content on social media and even on TV, you can't escape from the ads, directives, and narratives that you need to change something about yourself, or are you possibly already failing some of those resolutions? But let's get real. You may not love where you are currently in your professional life, and you may want more for yourself and for your family. We understand that. At South College, our goal is to help you find that direction and to be part of your journey to chase your dreams. A new year and a new you is all within reach. Take a look at south.edu, and every single program in concentration on the Academics tab has a dialog box that tells and explains that, quote, you may enjoy this line of study if, and it goes into statements that help unlock some skills and some passions you may not even know you have. Do you love mysteries and crime-solving dramas on TV? Maybe you should consider a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Do you like solving complex healthcare problems or even looking up symptoms of healthcare issues on your own? Have you considered a master's in public health? Want to be in the action and a key player in the surgical environment? You just heard from our program chair about surgical technology. Maybe that's your dream. Have you been putting off the big decision to do something new for yourself? Are you considering a career change? Or maybe you're right out of high school and still considering your options. Watch our videos and listen to our students, both past and present, that were once where you are right now. A journey begins with the first step. At South College, we have over 100 programs and concentration, from certificates all the way to doctoral degrees across healthcare, business, technology, legal studies, and so much more. Make 2025 your best year and your best you. You've got the dream, and South College has the direction. With 11 physical campuses in 7 states, plus online and CBE, there's a pathway for you at South College. Hope you enjoyed this latest episode of Live from South College. Thanks for joining me. We have a lot of great guests coming up very soon. If you love it, give us some stars, and you can always send us feedback by emailing us at southcollegepodcast@south.edu. Have an awesome day and let your dreams find direction. See you next time.